Now, I'm an occupational therapist, and together with my colleagues in physiotherapy, we wanted to find an objective way of measuring community outings from people's homes as an outcome measure in the current randomised controlled trial that we're underway from the NH&MRC funding. We know from the research that self-report methods like diaries, which are used a lot in falls prevention studies, can be very useful, but the longer you ask people to keep these diaries, the more problematic they are. We also know that pedometers and accelerometers are good for walking, but we wanted to record outings in cars and vehicles and trains as well as walking outings to the garden gate, to the back of your garden, any outing that really was about social participation. So we started looking at GPS devices as a way of being a feasible method for this study. We recruited 20 people who had been in previous studies who'd had a stroke, on average 4 years after their event. There was more men than women, and they had a range of walking speeds from very slow to about the speed that many of you and I will walk. This is the device we used, which is sold by a company in Australia. There are many of them around. Pocket size, you can wear it around your neck, put it in a bag, and so forth. We can track real time where the person's GPS device is, if it's on. And we asked them to take it with them whenever they left the house to go out into the garden or into the street. We can see at 3:39 somebody left the house, was probably in a vehicle, and at 3:29 they stopped. We can look at Google Maps and we can see that that was in fact one outing. They hadn't gone into a building, but they certainly weren't getting a coverage at 3:33. So it's very tedious and time-consuming to do, but it does give us objective data. So people kept this GPS device with them for a week. They kept a diary for a week. And we also went out and observed them, and we randomly allocated the time period to either a morning or an afternoon on different days of the week. We had major problems, and I'm very glad we did the feasibility study because we found that the battery chargers were a big problem. We had to give everybody at least 2 chargers to make sure that they worked every night between days. And the GPS devices themselves were faulty. So in the current trial, we bought 20 of the devices, and we've had 2 or 3 that have been problematic. But we've also learned how to train people better as a result of this problem. We found human errors too. Sometimes people thought the device was on when it was just powered down, and so they'd switch it off instead of leaving it on. And some people forgot to recharge it. So we're doing some daily monitoring during the 7 days. Level of agreement was acceptable between the observed outings and the recordings on GPS and diary, and that's within one outing. So conclusions are it's got an acceptable level of agreement, and we've tightened up some of the procedures in the study that we're doing. People found it quite acceptable. Of the 26 people that we approached, only 3 declined because they didn't want to be tracked. It's real-time monitoring, but I do warn you it's very time-consuming. And the one good thing that came out of it, and we've published this in 2012, and I have some copies of the paper with me, is that the diary is a valid method. Provided people know it's going to be recorded and it's for a limited time, is a valid method of keeping records.